right, let's take you to this horror story now. Authorities have discovered a female body in Mqhekezweni village, or Tambo District in the Eastern Cape, reportedly with bullet wounds and partially undressed. In response to this incident and the overnight assault of 5 Matric pupils in the same area, police have increased resources to track down the perpetrators. Now, this follows the shooting to death of a local traditional leader, Mqhekezweni, at her home in the Mqhekezweni Great Place. Mqhekezweni is where the late former President Nelson Mandela spent his teenage years with the Mqhekezweni family. Now, the police are also looking for 2 suspects in connection with the rape of the 5 learners. It is reported that the men forced their way into the home and that one was armed with a gun. There were 8 female pupils in the house. It's not clear if the crimes are linked.
Murder has been registered and the investigating team is already on the ground together with SABC forensic experts. The provincial detectives for the Serious and Violent Crimes Unit are leading the team to ensure that perpetrators are arrested. In the second incident, 5 learners were raped and robbed at gunpoint in the Mqhekezweni administrative area. The provincial head of the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Investigation Unit has assembled a team to investigate and apprehend these perpetrators.
Let's take this story further now. We're joined by a video link by Eastern Cape Premier Spokesperson Khuselwa, Rantjie, and Dr. Shaheda, Omar, Clinical Director at the Teddy Bear Clinic for Abused Children. Good afternoon to you both, and thank you so much for your time. Perhaps let's start with you, Ms. Rantjie, as we get the Premier's reaction about these horrific crimes. Perhaps also give us a sense of how the 5 learners are doing. I mean, this heinous incident happened as they are in the middle of writing their finals.
Good afternoon to you, Unathi, and to your viewers. Let's start firstly by really sending our condolences to the Mqhekezweni family on their passing of their mother, as well as to give our well wishes to those 5 learners, Unathi, 5 brave learners, if I may add, Unathi, and I say this because following the arrival of social workers this morning at the scene and their engagements with the learners, as well as the processes that have been undertaken by health practitioners assessing their situation, those learners having been presented with various options, including an option of postponing today's examinations. They forged ahead, Unathi, and wrote their COSA examination this morning. Of course, that happened under strict supervision of social workers, as well as support from education officials and under a watchful eye of law enforcement officers. And they have been removed to a safe place where they were writing their exams, and their condition will continue being monitoring where they are. So I must say that whilst they are dealing with this really tragic incident, they have been really brave throughout the day.
All right. Dr. Omar, I mean, while the murders of the 2 prominent women in this area cannot be linked at this stage with the rape, assault and the robbery of the 5 grade 12 pupils, I want to talk about, what you can draw about the persistent crime against women. And in recent weeks, we've seen this in the Eastern Cape. But perhaps let's start with just what we've been hearing from Ms. Rantjie in terms of what need do those 5 learners need now, especially at this very difficult time in their life's journey?
So I'm traumatized that these young girls went ahead to write exams as if nothing happened. One cannot commend that as bravery. They're still in a state of shock. If we look at Kubler-Ross's model of grief, the denial, and trying to process, they're in a state of shock. I don't think they have even managed to process what has actually happened to them and the impact thereof. I think at this point in time, these young girls need containment. I think Rantjie spoke to that. Yes, the containment, the support, the validation. That is what they need. But we cannot only ring fence the 5 girls. What about all the other learners at school who are also subjected to this vicarious trauma and this fear filled with dread, panic, alarm, horror that they may be the next target? So I think we also need to look at the bigger picture, the bigger landscape of how it's going to impact on the broader community. These 5 learners have been subjected to the most heinous crime, which nobody can justify. And of course, we cannot even begin to predict how it will impact on their trajectory. They may suffer for many, many years. They may develop coping skills, but it's something that one can only speculate at this point in time. And I think the most important thing that at this point in time is that they continue to get the counseling, the support, the debriefing that they've probably received, but not to push them in any direction and not to assume that they are fine, that they are brave, they are, commend them for courage. Yes, courageous, from victims to survivors, but they're not thriving. They haven't even had time to understand, internalize, and assimilate what has happened to them. Absolutely. And I think for me, this is of grave concern, that a lot of community outreach within the schools where other learners need to be debriefed, but also with the broader school community of empowering educators, life skills, teachers and counselors on how to work with children in general in these different communities for now.
Absolutely, Dr. Omar, I will come back to you a little bit later on. But Ms. Rantjie, just having listened to what Dr. Omar is saying in terms of the needs of these young girls, perhaps also talk to us about where police investigations are, any information and any update you can give us at this point. We do know, of course, police are looking for 2 suspects in as far as the rape incidents are concerned, but there's also 2 women that have been murdered here, and one of them, of course, a very prominent woman, particularly in that area, and that is, of course, Mqhekezweni.
Unathi, in terms of police investigations, those are still continuing, and we are hopeful that quite soon the police will make the arrest, and more importantly, as part of ensuring that we bring some confidence to the communities, those that have been linked to this heinous crimes will be taken through the processes of justice, and ultimately they will be found guilty of what they have done. But again, Unathi, I think I do want to touch on what Dr. Omar raised in terms of the stages of grief. And I think we acknowledge that as government, and it was important for us this morning to allow the girls to implement their wishes, but understanding that there is a need to continue provide support to them, and that is what is going to be happening, and they will continue being in that place of safety and being provided with that support, and that support extends beyond the 5 girls to the broader school community, to the area of Mqhekezweni, because you would understand that that community has really been suffering from criminal tendencies of these scales for a couple of years now, and it's important that we continue as government to support them, hence even the additional deployment of resources from the side of the South African Police Services to ensure that there is increased police visibility in that area to contain the situation, and whilst we are investigating these cases that or these incidents that have occurred.
Dr. Omar, we're fast running out of time, but I want to ask you this, just in as far as police visibility is concerned. I mean, we are dealing here with young children, of course, that have been assaulted. There were other children in that particular establishment, we understand, that may have witnessed this. They may have been afraid and ran away. In terms of police and law enforcement authorities in the main, just helping these young girls seek justice, what are the key steps here in the immediate term? Because whilst these young girls may have been ready to write that particular paper, they may find themselves during the examinations not being able to cope.
Indeed, and that is of a grave concern, because that feeds into their feelings of powerlessness, hopelessness, helplessness, and feeling defenseless. Remember, all power and control was taken away from them, and when they find themselves in a state of, in the depths of despair, or this feeling, I can't do this, and feeling stuck, they're immobilized. They're frozen and they cannot move beyond that. I think this is the concern that, and I think our lady from the Premier's office, our esteemed colleague, said that they're going to move at the pace of the children. And this is important, that power and the right to make choices, the right to a decision should be entrusted to the girls. They need to be supported through that, and to say it's okay not to be okay, and that they need to be taken through this journey where they are actually given a process of what to anticipate, the kind of responses, the kind of reactions, the emotional turmoil that they faced and that they will continue facing. I think this is a journey. It's going to be a very stormy journey, and this is what professional or mental health professionals will need to avail themselves to support these girls through this journey. But I think as far as law enforcement is also concerned, often there's a negative connotation associated with law enforcement in terms of visibility, in terms of the responses that are elicited by law enforcement officials, and that needs to be addressed, where these girls need to be reassured. And it's a process. It's not a single event. It's going to take a lot of time, but the families also need to be supported through this process, where they are empowered, equipped on how to respond, how to answer to questions, how to support their children through this very difficult, painful, and traumatic time.
Ms. Rantjie, I want to wrap with you very quickly. Of course, this murder of the two women, including the local traditional leader, Mqhekezweni, has again raised the question of should whistleblowers come forward. You've established an extortionist hotline. We know that, of course, the chief was one of those that spoke out against extortionists in the Eastern Cape. How concerned are you that people will now not come forward because of what has now transpired?
Unathi, we continue to call for communities to support investigation efforts of police. I think the strength of our crime intelligence units relies on community support, and we will continue to make that call. And in the event, Unathi, that there are indications that perhaps someone who has come forward with information is under some level of threat, I am sure that the police will come and give the required support to that individual. But what we're saying as government is that it's critical for communities to stand together at this point. It's critical for communities to come forward and give information to the police, because part of that information may lead not only to the arrest, but to us being able to contain some of the plans of the criminals. So that call is still out there, and we're hopeful that people of the province will not back down on the event that criminals may perhaps attack them.
All right. I want to thank you both for your time, and of course a very sensitive topic we are discussing with you this afternoon. Thank you so much for that. Of course, that was the Eastern Cape Premier Spokesperson Khuselwa Rantjie and Dr. Shaheda Omar, Clinical Director at the Teddy Bear Clinic for Abused Children, on that horrific story coming out of the Eastern Cape.